History continues. Live in Egg Harbor Township, I'm Nora Mushanek, Channel 6 Action News. Jim?
Yes, I am Jim. Thanks, Action News. The man who fell to earth. Things are stranger than fiction, my friends. And we'll take this opportunity to tell you we're now into hour number 2 of this 188th episode of MediaMonarchy.com. It's the 1st of October 2010. My name's James Evan Pilato. I'm your host and webmaster of the site and show. Broadcasting live from the Portland Radio Authority, praradio.org, simulcast live on zeropointradio.com and revereradio.net, and streaming live video on ustream.tv. These videos then made available on YouTube and archive.org as a way, again, to build out the redundancy, to just spread this information. Maybe you're not going to listen to a 2-hour podcast. How about a little 10-minute video that has some links for you? We're still going down our massive September 30th news purge titled Floating Vibes, named for the intro track that we started the episode off from Surfer Blood. But let's get into the obamessiah updates and all the criminal cabinet members and Congress critters. You got to see it. Thanks to Washington's blog, there is an exhaustive graphic illustration of all the differences between the modern Democratic and Republican parties. And that would be the donkey and the elephant joined at the ass with piles of money around them. It's that simple. Associated Press noting, and they're out. Congress flees D.C. to campaign. Yes, they're running home to their constituents to try and explain, 1, why they don't do what their constituents want, and 2, why they should continue to vote these people back in. Washington Post notes that as November nears, voters turn backs on both parties. What if they hold an election in which voters don't like either of the choices? Oh my God, imagine that. Well, we're going to find out here in just over 30 days, as poll after poll shows that both national parties are deeply unpopular, with an electorate looking for something new and different. Dems have suffered from being the majority party for the past 20 months, in control of political Washington, and expected to do more by voters who elected Obama to change the culture in the District of Criminals. But the GOP ain't offering much that'll earn them credit in the eyes of most voters either. 38% in this poll, New York Times, CBS, approved of the Democrats, while 60% disapproved. That is, disapproved. We hate both parties. We know they're completely connected and corrupted. But I don't want to throw my vote away on a third party. They can never win. Just don't look. Furthermore, from Gallup, Americans renew call for third party. So again, let's see if we can take all this polling and all these opinion and armchair quarterbacking and see if people will put their vote where their mouth is and vote out these career politicians. We reported for you several months ago another poll where pretty much most respondents said, I would prefer people randomly chosen from the phone book to the criminals that we have right now. And of course, it's October 1st, and now we are in the realm of October surprise. So, let's take this report from Aaron Dykes on jonesreport.com. Obama admin predicts small-scale terror in time for elections again? Terrorism concerns necessarily hinge on fear, and it's now completely predictable that an otherwise unpopular Obama administration would roll out the terror threat to bolster support for the 2010 elections. The Washington Post reports that, quote, risk of small-scale attacks by al-Qaeda and its allies is rising, officials say. This alarming headline comes in concert with comments from Obama about absorbing a terror attack, as well as, of course, hyperbolic warnings from Napolitano, head of Homeland Stupidity, saying before Congress that al-Qaeda is recruiting for homeland attacks. And then we flip to the other phony side. Politico reporting on an article called Graham, White House Talks Just Went Dead. This is about Lindsey Graham talking about the closure of Guantanamo Bay and how they were talking about it, and then suddenly it just all went dead. What's mentioned further down the article, way further down the article, where Lindsey Graham says, quote, "There's going to be an attack. There's going to be the impetus. That's going to be what it takes to get Congress and the administration talking. We have to get hit again." Junkies calling for their terror fix just to give them enough political capital to get through another season to ram more draconian, liberty-destroying legislation down our throats. And as the former White House Chief of Staff, soon-to-be mayor of Chicagoland, Rahm Emanuel notes, you never let a catastrophe go unexploited. We'll make a brief note about my home state of West Virginia, where that Senate race has become unexpectedly tight as now former Governor Joe Manchin stepped down, running for Senate, and now he's getting hurt by the GOP guy, Raese. R-A-E-S-E. Federal probe muddies West Virginia Senate race. This is again from Politico, noting, again, when you get behind pretty much anybody that's in politics, you're going to find kickbacks for your district, in this case, Fairmont, West Virginia. Inspector General report exposes FBI exam cheating scandal. More on that from allgov.com. We also note that as our Congress critters flee the district of criminals to come back and beg us to vote their sorry asses back in, this coming Monday, October 4th, the U.S. Supreme Court begins a new term with a slew of technology and civil rights issues queued up on the docket, some of which could have far-reaching implications for the Freedom of Information Act, copyright, warrantless searches of private residence, the state secrets privilege, and freedom of expression. And I'm sure we'll see Kagan eager to show her stuff and crush freedom of speech. That's how they roll. So, speaking of state secrets, Glenn Greenwald notes, of course, the Obama administration arguing that their assassination program is a state secret. You know, that assassination program where they say they can kill American citizens abroad who are even suspected of being involved in terrorism. Brennan put it out for us earlier in the year. I talked about it on KUFO with Clyde Lewis. And that's what we've seen. The parties change, and just as we noted, as people turning their backs on the main parties, with the Democrats in power, you know, now they're absorbing the garbage. And again, this is the phony left-right system that props it up. One's in, one's out. One's asleep, one's awake. As if all that crap wasn't enough, Obama calls for a longer school year.
President Obama tells reporters he's in favor of a longer school year because he says we're behind in the education process across the world.
The president also called for the removal of the worst performing teachers in school districts. Cody Spain joins us now live in Tyler with more on this story. Cody?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, the Associated Press says that President Obama recently commented on the state of our nation's schools. The president says that specifically the District of Columbia schools are struggling. The president also called for two major changes in the education industry.
I think we should have longer school years. We now have our kids go to school about a month less than most other advanced countries, and that month makes a difference.
A longer school year could be in the works for students. The president calls for an increase in the number of days students should attend in a school year. Some parents here in East Texas agree.
I think there's plenty for children to learn, and it wouldn't hurt to have a little extra time to learn it.
Others see the increase as something they would have to get used to.
I have a background in education. I know it would not be popular with students probably, and it would require some adjustment for parents and scheduling and things like that.
But a longer school year wasn't the only issue the president was calling for. He also told reporters bad teachers have to go.
If we can't identify teachers who are subpar, give them the opportunity to get better, but if they don't get better at a certain point, saying these teachers should not be in the classroom, if we don't do that, then we are doing a disservice to our kids. And the school system has to be designed not for the adults, it's got to be designed for the children.
Now, so far the president has not said how long that he thinks that a typical school year should be, but only that the concept makes sense. Reporting live in Tyler, Cody Spain, KTK NBC.
Now, if that seems fairly innocuous, yes, we're falling behind, but as we fall behind in all the other areas, you know that it's not by accident. If this seems at first sniff a fairly innocuous idea, I implore you to check out things like the School Sucks podcast or The Underground History of American Education from John Taylor Gatto. The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America by Charlotte Iserbyt. And, of course, all the latest podcasts from peacerevolution.org. They need your kids. That's how they get the next generation. To be just smart enough to push the buttons for the elite and ruling oligarchs, but not smart enough to ask any pesky questions. They'll just go to their feelies, they'll take their soma. Ford's in his flivver, all's right with the world. Our last notes here on obamessiah relates to all the other puppet characters. Former President Jimmy Carter, hospitalized with stomach virus. Of course, all due to our bad food system. More on that from Barf Blog. Larry Summers, Obama's top economic advisor, leaving. More on that from the Washington Post. Rahm Emanuel announced his resignation. Some guy named Pete Rouse is going to step in as chief of staff. I wonder how much longer Robert Gibbs can hang on as the press secretary. As again, you got to roll through the birdcage liner. These guys are all puppets. We're all told to project our angers and hopes and fears onto these cast of characters that are essentially the shadows on the wall. They sell the agenda and they're moved along, and then they get, some Tony gig set up somewhere later, private sector. Let's quickly, amazingly, my friends, close out this massive 9:30 news purge, floating vibes with a little Oregon oddities and West Virginia worry. First, a funny one by way of itnews.com. Oregon hunters repeatedly shoot down Google fiber. There's a big Google center in the Dalles. That's a place here in Oregon. D-A-L-L-E-S. But on a much worse note, from our own Oregonian, Portland architect admits to being part of international child porn network. Tie that in with all of the NSA and DOD guys recently busted for child porn. But then our last two notes on the news purge are two notes of West Virginia worry. First is, unfortunately, no surprise at all, West Virginia kids among some of the poorest in the nation.
Local groups who help those living in poverty see the faces of the people who make up these alarming statistics, and they're noticing the increase in poverty as well. Our 13 News' Nikki Walters joins us live in the Charleston studio tonight with more. Nikki, you talked with people at Mountain Mission today. What'd you find out?
Well, Sandra, last year the Mountain Mission helped feed and clothe nearly 9,000 people, and in the months to come they are expecting the need for help to grow as more children live in poverty. At the Mountain Mission in Charleston, keeping food on the shelves is more difficult than ever as families come in searching for help.
There are many mothers that come in with infants, they come in with toddlers and children of all ages.
The real-life consequences of the jump in childhood poverty are clear daily as desperate parents try to keep food on the table, a roof overhead, and clothes on their children's backs.
when you can help a family and you look in a mother's eyes and she is touched by you making sure that her child has food for the week, it makes you feel good.
Margie Hale with West Virginia Kids Count says the long-term effects of poverty can be devastating.
Kids who are poor tend to drop out of school, get in trouble with the law, don't stay in school, maybe have babies too soon, don't have as good jobs, don't have as good income, later in life. So there are just these dire outcomes for